He slammed the door so hard the frame rattled, and for a second, I thought the entire barracks would collapse. That was the exact moment I realized two things. First, that I had just made a deal with the most dangerous man in the U.S. Army, and second, that I might not live long enough to regret it. Strip away the attitude, soldier. General Marcus Hale's voice was like steel scraping on concrete, low and merciless. His uniform was immaculate, every button a threat, and those eyes cold, calculating stared straight through me, as if searching for a lie I hadn't even told yet. Funny thing is, I wasn't a soldier. I was barely anything at all. Just a guy with too many debts, a little brother to protect, and a knack for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, somehow, I was about to become a military wife. It all started 3 weeks ago, in the middle of nowhere, Texas, where dreams went to die and secrets thrived like weeds. My brother, Jamie, had enlisted at 18, bright-eyed, believing in the promise of honor and country. I believed in nothing but surviving day by day. Then Jamie called me, his voice trembling over a bad connection, whispering words that didn't fit together. Accident, cover-up, dishonor, ruined. I packed a bag, stole a car, and drove through 2 states like the devil himself was on my tail. And that's when I met Marcus Hale. He wasn't just a general. He was the general youngest in decades, decorated like a damn Christmas tree, and with the kind of face that made you forget every good decision you'd ever made. Square jaw, dark hair cropped neat, and eyes like a storm you couldn't outrun. The moment I barged into his office, demanding answers about Jamie, I should have known I was signing a deal with the devil. But instead of throwing me out, he leaned back in his chair, steepled his fingers, and smiled that razor-sharp smile. "You want your brother safe," he said. "I want my career safe." Turns out Marcus had a problem. A big one. Rumors swirling in the ranks, whispers that he wasn't exactly the poster boy for traditional values. In the Army, that wasn't just gossip, it was a loaded gun pointed at his head. His solution: marry me, make it look real. Shut the rumors down before they could explode. My price? Jamie's freedom. His record wiped clean. His future intact. It should have been simple. A fake marriage, no strings, just signatures and staged smiles. 2 men playing house in a world that hated the idea. What I didn't expect was how easily the lines would blur. The first night in his quarters, I didn't sleep. Couldn't. The air smelled like gun oil and leather, sharp and clean, and Marcus moved around the room like a shadow, unpeeling his uniform with precision. I told myself not to stare, but Jesus' broad shoulders, scarred hands, and a body carved by discipline and war. He caught me looking. Of course he did. "Rule number 1, he said, unbuttoning his cuffs. "No one touches. No one kisses. This is business, nothing else." His voice was cold enough to freeze fire, but his hands trembled just slightly when he turned away. And that's when I knew. This wasn't just a game for him. It was a war, and I had just stepped onto the battlefield. For the next 2 weeks, we lived like ghosts in a glass house. To the outside world, we were the perfect military couple photo ops at charity galas, polite smiles at base functions, matching rings gleaming like lies. Behind closed doors, it was silence thick enough to choke on. Except for the nights when the whiskey burned and the truth slipped out between clenched teeth. Like the night he told me about Afghanistan, about the men he couldn't save, about the blood that still stained his hands no matter how hard he scrubbed. His voice broke on the word brother, and I didn't know if he meant mine or his. Or the night I almost kissed him. We were arguing loud, vicious, the kind of fight that leaves bruises even when no one touches. He said I didn't understand what he risked, what it meant to wear that uniform and hide pieces of yourself just to survive. I said he didn't understand what it meant to be scraping by, selling pieces of your soul just to keep someone you love breathing. And then he grabbed my wrist, hard enough to hurt, and the world went silent except for the sound of his breath on my lips. I should have pulled away. God knows I should have. Instead, I whispered, "Then show me." He didn't. Not that night. But something shifted between us, something dangerous and sweet, and I knew we were both standing on the edge of a cliff with no parachute in sight. And the thing about cliffs? Eventually, you fall. The first time I touched him, really touched him, it wasn't romantic. It wasn't even planned. It was survival. We were on our way to a charity dinner in DC, the kind of event where cameras flash like gunfire and everyone's smile is a sharpened blade. I hated those nights, the suits, the speeches, the endless parade of people pretending to care about things they'd never understand. Marcus was quiet the entire drive, jaw locked, fingers drumming on the steering wheel. I could feel the tension radiating off him like heat from asphalt. Something was wrong. "Talk to me," I said finally. His eyes flicked to mine for half a second, stormy and unreadable. "Not now, Marcus." "Not now, Daniel," he snapped, and I bit my tongue so hard it tasted like iron. We rode the rest of the way in silence, the kind that builds and builds until you're sure it's going to explode. When we pulled up to the hotel, he didn't move. Just sat there, staring straight ahead like the world outside didn't exist. I reached over and laid my hand on his. It was instinct, nothing more like grabbing a live wire and hoping it wouldn't kill you. His skin was warm, calloused, and trembling under my fingers. "Whatever it is," I said softly, "you don't have to carry it alone." He looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time I saw the cracks in the armor, the man under the metals. His throat worked like he wanted to say something, but all he did was nod once, sharp and quick, and then he was out of the car, the mask back in place. The dinner was a blur of crystal glasses and hollow laughter. Senators shook Marcus's hand like he was their favorite son. Women in glittering gowns hung on his every word, and I stood there like a prop in a well-rehearsed play. Smile, nod, pretend you belong. Halfway through the night, I slipped out onto the balcony, desperate for air. The city stretched out below me, all lights and lies, and for a second, I wondered what would happen if I just kept walking. "You hate this as much as I do," a voice said behind me. I turned to find Marcus leaning against the railing, bow tie undone, shirt collar open. He looked younger like that, less like a general and more like a man who'd seen too much and didn't know how to stop seeing it. "Worse," I admitted. "At least you get medals out of it. I just get blisters from these damn shoes." That made him laugh a real laugh, low and rough, like it had been dragged out of him against his will. "Come on," he said suddenly, grabbing my hand. "Where?" "Anywhere but here." And just like that, we were gone, slipping out through service corridors like fugitives, ditching the black tie circus for the backstreets of a city that didn't care who we were. We ended up in a dive bar that smelled like whiskey and bad decisions. Marcus loosened his jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and for the first time, I saw him breathe. We drank. We talked. Not about the army, not about Jamie, not about the lie we were living. We talked about stupid things, music, movies, the time I tried to cook Thanksgiving dinner and almost burned down my apartment. He told me about his mom's apple pie, about the stray dog he rescued as a kid, about the scar on his knuckle from punching a locker in high school. Somewhere between the second and third drink, he smiled at me, really smiled, and it hit me like a bullet to the chest. I was falling. God help me, I was falling for him. The ride back to the base was quiet, but not the bad kind. His hand rested on the console, mine just inches away, and every mile felt like a dare. When we reached his quarters, I should have said good night. I should have walked away, locked myself in the guest room, and reminded myself that this was business. Instead, I followed him inside. He shrugged off his jacket, tossed it over a chair, and turned to me with that look, the one that strips you bare without touching you. "Daniel," he said, low and rough, like my name was something he shouldn't say but couldn't stop himself from saying. And then I kissed him. Or maybe he kissed me. I don't know. All I know is that 1 second we were standing apart, and the next his mouth was on mine, hard and hungry, like he'd been starving for years and I was the first real meal he'd had. I should have pulled back. God knows I should have. But when his hands slid into my hair and his body pressed against mine, every reason, every rule, every damn line we drew burned to ash. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was messy and desperate and real in a way nothing else in my life had ever been. When we finally broke apart, breathing like we'd just run a marathon, he rested his forehead against mine. "This changes everything," he whispered. I knew he was right, and for the first time since this whole mess started, I didn't care. The days after that were a blur, half heaven, half hell. He was different with me now. Not softer exactly, but something deeper, something raw. We stole moments in the shadows, behind locked doors, in the quiet spaces between the lies we told the world. And God, I hated how much I needed him, how much I needed the way his hands steadied me, the way his voice could pull me back from the edge, the way he made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't broken beyond repair. But the world doesn't leave men like Marcus Hale in peace. And it sure as hell doesn't let men like us be happy. The first crack came in the form of a knock on the door. Major Bennett. Tall, sharp-eyed, the kind of man who smelled trouble before it had a name. He saluted Marcus, barely glanced at me, and dropped a folder on the desk. "Sir," he said, voice clipped, "we've got a problem." Marcus's jaw tightened. "What kind of problem?" "The kind that asks questions you don't want asked," Bennett said. His eyes flicked to me then, just for a second, but it was enough to make my stomach drop. Rumors, whispers, the very thing we'd been running from, coming back with teeth. After Bennett left, Marcus slammed the folder shut and cursed under his breath. "They're watching us," he said. I swallowed hard. "So what do we do?" He looked at me then, and there was something in his eyes that scared me more than any threat outside these walls. "We make them believe," he said slowly. "No more hiding. No more halfway. You want your brother safe? Then we do this for real." My pulse spiked. "Real how?" He stepped closer, until the air between us hummed with danger and want. "Marry me," he said. "Not a fake ceremony in some dusty courthouse. Not staged photos for the press. A real wedding, vows and witnesses, and a piece of paper that would bind us tighter than any lie ever could." I stared at him, heart pounding like a drum in my ears. "Marcus," we said. "I know what we said." He cut in, his voice low and fierce. "But this isn't just about rumors anymore. If they're digging, they'll find everything. Unless we give them something they can't question." "And what about us?" I whispered. "What the hell happens to us when the dust settles?" He didn't answer. Not with words. Instead, he kissed Meslo this time, like a promise and a warning all at once. And in that kiss, I knew the truth I'd been running from since the moment we met. I wasn't pretending anymore. I was his. The chapel smelled like lilies and lies. Rows of polished pews gleamed under the soft glow of chandeliers, sunlight filtering through stained glass like some divine joke. I never imagined I'd be standing here, wearing a suit that cost more than my entire life savings, waiting to marry a man whose very name could start a war. And yet here I was, Daniel Ross, the nobody from nowhere, about to say I do to General Marcus Hale. There was no music, no guests beyond the required few. Just the bare minimum to make it legal. 2 witnesses, a chaplain, Marcus in his dress uniform, sharp enough to cut, every metal catching the light like a warning. When he walked down the aisle, because of course he did, because Marcus Hale doesn't walk anywhere without commanding the space, I forgot how to breathe. His eyes locked on mine, dark and steady, and for a moment, everything else fell away. Should have felt fake. This was a deal, a shield, a desperate move to keep the wolves at bay. But when he took my hand, warm, solid, grounding, I swear the earth tilted under my feet. "Do you, Daniel Ross, take this man?" The words blurred after that. All I remember is saying yes. Yes to him. Yes to the danger. Yes to the fact that I was in so deep there was no coming back. When the chaplain pronounced us married, Marcus didn't hesitate. He cupped my face in those battle-scarred hands and kissed me like the world was watching, because it was. Cameras flashed, shutters clicked, and somewhere in the back of my mind, I wondered if they caught the truth hiding in plain sight. Because that kiss? It wasn't staged. It wasn't strategic. It was real. The honeymoon was a press conference. Reporters clawed for a piece of us, questions flying like bullets. "How did you meet? Was it love at first sight? When's the reception?" Marcus handled it like he handled everything, with precision and control. Every answer was measured, every smile calculated. And me? I played my part. grinning like the luckiest guy alive while my pulse thundered so loud I could barely hear myself think. But when the cameras stopped flashing and the doors closed behind us, the mask slipped. He didn't speak, just yanked off his jacket, tossed it aside, and poured 2 fingers of whiskey like it was oxygen. His hands shook when he set the glass down. "They won't stop," he said finally, voice raw. "Not until they find something to bury me with." I crossed the room, took the glass from his hand, and set it aside. "Then let them dig. They won't find a damn thing." He looked at me then, like he didn't know whether to kiss me or curse me. Maybe both. "You don't get it," he said. "This life, this machinite chews people up. They'll come for you too." I swallowed hard. "Then let them come." His jaw worked, muscles tight like he was holding something back. Then, without warning, he closed the distance between us and kissed me. Hard, desperate, like a man who'd been holding his breath for too damn long. And just like that, the world outside stopped mattering. The next few weeks were chaos. Interviews, charity events, photo shoots, every move scrutinized, every word dissected. We smiled for cameras, held hands in public, played the perfect couple so well I almost forgot it wasn't supposed to be real. Almost. Because behind closed doors it was real. Too real. Nights tangled in sheets, his breath hot against my skin. His voice breaking on my name like a prayer he didn't believe in. But it wasn't all soft kisses and whispered promises. There were fights, loud, brutal fights that left us both bleeding in ways no one could see. Like the night I found the file. It was late. Marcus was in the shower, steam curling under the bathroom door, and I was looking for a charger in his desk when I saw Ida manila folder with my brother's name stamped across the front. Jamie Ross. My hands shook as I flipped it open. Reports. Photos. A disciplinary note I'd never seen before. Words that didn't make sense until they did. Unauthorized absence, insubordination, possible dishonorable discharge. And then the kick-era signature at the bottom of the page. Marcus Hale. My blood turned to ice. The bathroom door opened behind me. "Daniel." I spun around, folder clutched to my chest. "What the hell is this?" His face went stone cold in an instant. "Put it down." "No," I snapped. "You said you'd take care of him. You said." "I did take care of him." He cut in, voice sharp enough to draw blood. "By what? Throwing him under the bus? Signing off on ruining his life?" His eyes flashed. "You think that's what this is? You think I haven't been breaking every goddamn rule to keep that kid from ending up in a cellar worse?" I blinked, thrown by the fury in his voice. "Jamie disobeyed orders," Marcus ground out. "Not once, not twice, 3 times. You know what that gets you in my world? A bullet in the back or a court-martial that follows you to your grave. I kept him out of both." I stared at him, chest heaving, words clawing at my throat. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you already hate me enough for dragging you into this mess," he said, and for the first time, his voice broke. "I couldn't stand the thought of you hating me for that too." The silence after that was a living thing, thick and heavy. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to walk out and never look back. Instead, I sank into the chair, head in my hands, and whispered, "I don't hate you." When I looked up, his eyes were wet. And God help me, I wanted to kiss him more than I wanted my next breath. We didn't sleep that night. Not because we were fighting. Because we couldn't stop holding on like the world was ending and we were the only 2 left alive. But the world wasn't ending. Not yet. It was just waiting for the right moment to explode. The explosion came on a Thursday. We were at the base in Marcus's office, going over some bullshit paperwork when Bennett stormed in, face grim. "Sir, we've got a leak," he said, throwing a newspaper on the desk. My stomach dropped. There it was, in black and white. General Hale's secret Lafitte marriage that shocked the army, photos of us kissing outside a gala, holding hands at some charity event, smiling like fools who thought the world couldn't touch us. And the headline below the fold. "Sources claim marriage is a cover-up for scandal." Marcus's jaw clenched so hard I heard his teeth grind. "Find out who did this," he said, voice like ice. But I barely heard him. My eyes were glued to the last line of the article. Anonymous sources allege Hale's spouse has ties to ongoing military investigation. My blood turned to fire. They're coming for me, I whispered. Marcus looked at me, and for the first time since I'd met him, I saw fear in his eyes. They're coming for both of us, he said. The rain started just as the sky turned black, pounding against the windows like gunfire. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the headline glowing on my phone screen, fingers numb around the glass. They knew. Not everything, not yet, but enough to burn us both alive. Marcus stood across the room, still in his uniform, pacing like a caged animal. His shoulders were tight, his jaw carved from stone, but his hands were shaking. We don't have time, he said finally, voice clipped. They'll move fast now. If they drag you into this, I can handle it. I cut in, forcing steel into my tone even as my pulse skittered like a rabbit's. He stopped dead and turned on me, eyes blazing. You think this is a joke? They'll rip you apart, Daniel. They'll rip us both apart, and they won't stop until there's nothing left but bones. Then what? I shot back, standing so fast the chair toppled behind me. You want me to run? Hide? Pretend like we never? My voice cracked before I could stop it. Never happened? He closed the distance in 2 strides and grabbed my face like he needed to hold the world together with his bare hands. His breath hit my skin hot and ragged. I want you safe, he said, low and broken. Even if it kills me. The silence stretched, heavy and sharp, until it snapped. I kissed him hard, like a man kissing for the last time. His arms crushed me against him, and for a moment, there was no army, no headlines, no war waiting outside these walls. Just us, 2 men hanging by a thread, trying to stitch a world out of shattered pieces. The plan came after, when the whiskey burned low and the night pressed in. Marcus sat at the desk, scribbling something on a legal pad, his face carved from shadow and resolve. This will work, he said, though his voice didn't sound like he believed it. Bennett owes me. He'll make sure the right files disappear. You'll take Jamie, leave town tonight, and by the time they realize you're gone, I'm not leaving you. His pen froze. Slowly, he looked up, and the weight in his eyes nearly dropped me to my knees. You think this is noble, Daniel? You think staying here while they tear me apart helps either of us? I don't care what it helps, I said, every word scraping raw from my throat. I'm not running. Not without you. For a long moment he just stared at me. Then, without warning, the pen clattered to the desk, and he dragged me into his arms like a drowning man clinging to wreckage. God damn it, he whispered into my hair, voice shaking. You're gonna be the death of me. Morning came like a blade to the throat. Sirens wailing somewhere in the distance. Phones buzzing like angry bees. Bennett at the door, his face pale and tight. They've got warrants, he said without preamble. CID's on base. They're coming for you, Marcus. And then his eyes flicked to me. And him. Marcus didn't flinch. How long? Minutes. The air turned to lead. Go, Marcus said, shoving me toward the back door. Take my car. Head for the state line. No, my voice came out sharp, almost feral. I'm not leaving you to clean up a mess that's half mine. Damn it, Daniel. You said we were in this together? I snapped, stepping in close. So close I could feel the heat rolling off him like a storm. You said this wasn't just a lie anymore. His jaw worked, muscles tight enough to snap, and for a heartbeat I thought he'd argue. Then something in him broke. Bennett, he barked. Get the car ready. Plan Delta. Bennett's eyes widened. Sir, that plan is not a request. Marcus cut in, voice like a gunshot. The major hesitated for half a breath, then nodded once and disappeared down the hall. I turned back to Marcus, heart pounding like artillery fire. What's Plan Delta? His hand closed around mine, warm and rough and steady as a promise. Us, he said simply. Walking out of here alive. The next hour blurred into motion. Disguises. Forged orders. A convoy that wasn't supposed to exist. Every second a gamble, every shadow a loaded gun. We almost made it. Almost. We were 2 miles from the safe house when the black SUVs came screaming around the bend, lights cutting through the rain like knives. Marcus cursed, slammed the wheel hard, and the Humvee fishtailed on the slick asphalt. My head slammed against the window, stars exploding behind my eyes, but I held on to the dashboard, to the seatbelt, to the man beside me like he was the only real thing left in a world unraveling at the seams. "Get down!" Marcus roared as bullets tore through the air, shattering glass, shredding metal. I hit the floorboard, heart in my throat, ears ringing with gunfire and rain. Marcus drove like a demon, every muscle taut, every move a prayer wrapped in fury. And then silence. The SUVs were gone. Or maybe they'd never been there at all. Maybe it was just the sound of blood roaring in my ears. When I looked up, we were in the middle of nowhere. Trees crowding the road. Darkness pressing in. Marcus killed the engine and sagged against the wheel, breath coming in harsh, ragged pulls. "Are you hurt?" he asked without looking at me. "No," I croaked. "You?" He didn't answer, just turned his head, and that's when I saw a bloom of red spreading across his side. "Marcus?" I whispered, horror clawing up my throat. "It's fine," he gritted out, already reaching for the med kit. Through and through. Missed the artery. "That's not fine." My hands shook as I tore open the kit, pressing gauze to the wound while he hissed between clenched teeth. "God, Marcus," his hand closed over mine. Strong even now. His eyes locked on mine, dark and steady. And for a second, the world narrowed to just that look. "If anything happens to me, don't," I choked out. "Don't you dare. I need you to listen," he said, voice soft but sharp enough to cut. "You get to the cabin. There's a duffel under the floorboards, cash. IDs, everything you need to disappear. You take it. You run. You live." "No," I said, fierce and trembling. "Not without you." His mouth curved, a ghost of a smile. "Stubborn to the end." And then he kissed Meslo this time, deep and aching, like a man memorizing a language he'll never speak again. "I love you," he whispered against my lips. The words detonated in my chest, shattering everything I thought I knew about love, about life, about myself. And I said them back. God help me, I said them back. We made it to the cabin just before dawn, bleeding and breathless and half-broken. I stitched him up by lantern light, hands slick with sweat and fear, and when it was done, he pulled me down beside him and held me like the world wasn't hunting us both. Days blurred. The storm outside never stopped, rain and sirens, and the low hum of a war we couldn't win. But in that cabin, time bent. We cooked on a rusted stove, shared whiskey from the bottle, slept tangled in sheets that smelled like cedar and smoke and skin. And for a little while it almost felt like peace. It didn't last. They found us on the 5th day. Bennett warned us just enough time to run. We didn't take much. Couldn't. Just the duffel, the guns, the clothes on our backs. The last thing I remember of that cabin is Marcus's hand in mine, gripping tight as flames licked the walls. His idea. Burn it down. Leave nothing behind but ashes. We didn't stop running after that. Maybe we never will. It's been 6 months. We live in a city where no one knows our names. In an apartment with peeling paint and a view of nothing worth seeing. He works nights, odd jobs that keep him under the radar. I bartend at a dive where the jukebox is older than God. Sometimes, when the world goes quiet, I catch him looking at me with that same storm in his eyes, and I know he's thinking what I'm thinking, that we traded one war for another. But then he smiles, slow and rare, and says, "Come to bed, Danny." And for a while, the noise fades. For a while, it's just us. And that's enough. For now. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.